but we can tell you authoritatively, even the convoy that you're currently seeing on your screen, behind that convoy is a mammoth of crowd who have decided to escort by foot this convoy that is currently ferrying, or rather transporting, the ODM leader Raila Odinga. So momentarily they'll be approaching the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University of Science and Technology. Of course, we have witnessed even the National Police Service, especially the traffic unit, clearing the road leading up to Just, because cars, including buses that were ferrying people to that particular site, has already blocked the road that is supposed to be used by this convoy. But it has been cleared. It will have an easier time going into the Just University, of course. And also a crowd has also congregated along that particular route and also outside the Jaramogi Odinga University of Science and Technology. Earlier on, the Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has assured the security of this particular area, the security of the supporters, the mourners, the family members, and all the dignitaries who have arrived at the Jaramogi Odinga University of Science and Technology. And Doreen, perhaps take us through some of the guests you've already seen, aside from the Interior Cabinet Secretary.
That's right. We've seen a number of guests, as you've mentioned, the Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen, as also some of those that Simon Achola was talking to, the member of County Assembly in Homa Bay County, that is Florence, various leaders also just across the board, the globe, as I had mentioned earlier, the widow to former Prime Minister Morgan Tsvangirai also arrived. She was here yesterday. Some key leaders from Ethiopia as well as South Sudan, a clear indication of the kind of man that Raila Odinga was. But also just before that convoy left Opoda Farm, earlier on, the Director General for National Intelligence Service, that is Nurdin Haji, had also made his way there, perhaps to pay his last respects to Raila Odinga before the convoy left. There was a bit of delay, but we also understand the reports indicating that he was meeting with the family, perhaps just discussing some security matters before they left the Opoda Farm, heading to the Jaramogi Odinga University of Science and Technology, Just. And what you're seeing there is a split screen of Just and the convoy as it's moving steadily to Just there. And this is a replica, by the way, of what happened on Friday when the body left Lee Funeral Home to the Nyayo National Stadium for that state funeral service. And again, we are seeing that same thing today when the body is leaving Opoda Farm to Just again for another funeral service there. As you had mentioned earlier, this will be presided by the Anglican Church, which is again also what we saw in Nairobi just some 2 days ago. This again a clear indication that Raila Odinga was a member of the Anglican Church, part of why we are seeing the services being held by the Anglican Church of Kenya. Also, President William Ruto will be leading this again state funeral service. And a number of things have just come out even from that conversation with Simon Achola, with some leaders there bringing out the kind of man that Raila Odinga was. You've also heard him that saying, I beg your pardon, that this capacity is supposed to perhaps move to 60,000, just as you had mentioned. Earlier, we really explained carrying the leaves. sign of respect. I mean, we've really seen that across, even just some having it in their vehicles, in their cars, of respect. I mean, we've really seen that across, even just some having it in their vehicles, in their cars, private cars, whether public or private. Again, a sign of respect, just standing along the road, not interfering with the convoy, watching as it's moving very slowly, steadily, coming to Jos. And I believe also there are some various other members of the public, locals from far wide and beyond, even behind the house that is carrying Raila Odinga, which again was sort of like a good choice to move it by road. Again, one last moment.
Indeed, of course, that particular flag as well, Doreen, and handkerchiefs, white handkerchiefs, of course, they were also waved yesterday at Mamboleo. Of course, a sight to behold, given that the ODM leader Raila Odinga advocated for peace. We all know what the white color means in various aspects. But you're correct, Doreen, the people are respecting the convoy that is currently being led by the National Police Service, the military, in conjunction with other security apparatus, just to ensure that the body reaches where it's intended to be, at the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University of Science and Technology. Of course, that contrast, Doreen, you're bringing in terms of what happened here at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport when the body was expected to be taken to Lee Funeral Home, then afterwards to Parliament buildings. That was not the case because the crowd that had congregated not just inside the presidential pavilion at JKIA but outside JKIA itself, they even had the opportunity to take their motorbikes inside JKIA, a site that has never been seen, especially in that particular international airport. But the people of Siaya have at least adhered to what the security personnel have urged them to do, not to interfere or jump across the convoy that is currently slowly and steadily making its way at the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University of Science and Technology. But Doreen, interestingly, if we could also get those shots, and hopefully we'll get them outside the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University of Science and Technology, the buses, especially the school buses, and we'll be seeing on our screens in just a few, given that they're expected to arrive there any moment from now. There is a traffic snarl-up outside Jos, as well as the members of supporters of ODM as well as mourners have also congregated outside Jos. So it will be a little bit of a headache for the security personnel to be clearing that in just a few, especially for dignitaries such as President William Ruto, who walks around with a number of security personnel due to the status he's holding currently as the commander-in-chief, as well as the deputy president in tandem with the first and second family, who walks around with a number of security personnel. But that could be a contrast, especially to what we witnessed here at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. You can see on your screens, dear viewer, those buses are parked as far as that, Doreen, so that the people can at least, once the service ends, they can at least go back to Opoda Farm to continue mourning with the family.
And I can tell you, actually while I was coming in the morning, and you would hear some, even Matatu touts asking, for those going to Siaya, these are them. And you'd wonder at 5 a.m. that people who are trying to board buses just to go to Siaya to mourn Raila Odinga speaks of the love and the love that they have for the man that is Raila Odinga. But also, as you speak of peace, this reminds me of the message from Mama Ida yesterday, where she expressed some bit of distraught, especially given the kind of chaos that was witnessed in Nairobi on Thursday when the body touched down JKIA. You remember there was a bit of stalemate. Some minutes running into hours before the body left there. As you mentioned, it was supposed to move to Lee, Parliament, then Kasarani, but there was a quick change of plans, and that was just directly moved to Kasarani Stadium. That's the Moi International Sports Center in Kasarani, because of the mammoth, as you call it, the crowd that had just gathered around JKIA, and that trickled into Mombasa Road, into the expressway, moving very, very slowly. And that is part of what had been expected also yesterday again. when the body touched down at the Kisumu International Airport from from Nairobi all the way, and that's part also of what informed not moving by road but also being airlifted to the Mamboleo Stadium, and again being airlifted to Opoda Farm, where the body is now living as it's coming to Jost. But it's really quite interesting just seeing how peaceful it is following that call from Mama Ida, because she really rightfully put it that Raila Odinga was loved by many, and as following his death, she is mourning as the widow, the children are mourning, community, friends, various other relatives are mourning, looking at the kind of leaders that have come from far, wide and beyond from various countries. There are those who are sending prime ministers, there are heads of states and government, former heads of states and government are also, coming. Just a clear indication of the kind of man that he is. So it's very important to just maintain peace. I mean, we wouldn't want to see chaos. For such kind of leaders to see chaos just because we are mourning Raila Odinga. He was someone who advocated for peace, and we can hark back to history in the number of times he really advocated for peace when he just came together to form pacts. We can hark back to the 90s with the NDP and KANU to form New KANU. We can hark back to the time when, after the 2007-2008 post-election violence that ended up forming the Grand Coalition government. We can hark back to 2018 with the handshake, and just recently in March with the broad-based government. All this to ensure that there's peace. So how bad would it be that this time that is being laid to rest and now we want to cause chaos? There's a better way to mourn Raila Odinga. There's a better way, an easier way to view his body in a peaceful manner. And she really called for that yesterday, and we are seeing that today. In fact, these are some of the areas that there's those who would have expected chaos, given the kind of history this area has had, especially during elections, during and post-elections. But just look at the kind of peace. In fact, it looks like they are really obeying when the security agencies are telling them to move away from the road. They are just really listening. But also we've seen them, as you mentioned, carrying the white handkerchief. There are those who had tied headbands with the national flags. And also on that part of the split screen, I'm also seeing Masengeli with the interior CS. Again, obviously, just perhaps discussing security measures to ensure that that is put in place. But also, as I was saying, some waving the Kenyan flag. And again, this is just a sign of peace. You've seen the red carpet well placed, leading to the tent where his body will be placed, and also leading to the tent where the dignitaries would be seated, and everyone is just waiting for that body to arrive there. Looks like there's a pause.
Yes, the reason why they're posing, I told you a little bit earlier on, Doreen, is that the buses that were ferrying people, as well as the people who are outside the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University of Science and Technology, are currently being cleared to allow the body to enter the university, because this is where the state funeral, the final state funeral, will be held for the ODM leader Raila Odinga. And that is why the convoy now has stopped, and they will be going at a slower pace. But I'll tell you that thousands have congregated outside that particular gate, and of course the security personnel are trying to at least reason with them and urge them to allow the family and the casket that is currently hosting the ODM leader Raila Odinga to enter, at least so that it can be situated where the military has already set up. Also important to note, Doreen, is that President William Ruto has already arrived at the venue, and the president will be shown in just a few, currently held up in the VIP section. Of course, once the president is around, that means even the co-chair and the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, that is Abraham Kithure Kindiki, is also around. In terms of assuring the security, we heard it from the Interior Cabinet Secretary, also having conversations, as Doreen has told you on your screen. You're witnessing the DIG, that is Gilbert Masengeli, who started, of course, leading the charge even yesterday at Mamboleo grounds, where he was even forced at times to push the crowd behind so that they can not knock off the casket that was hosting the ODM leader Raila Odinga, because you were seeing the mourners, they were running high in emotions. Even some collapsed and they had to receive treatment in that stadium as well, given that they were carried away by emotions. But the reason why, viewers, if you're just joining us, that convoy is no longer moving inside the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University of Science and Technology is that the police officers, in conjunction with the military police and other cells within KDF and the National Police Service, are trying to clear the way to allow the body to move into the venue. And also, if you're just joining us, President William Ruto is around. But Doreen, significantly, we've seen luminaries of the ODM party members, including the Secretary General Edwin Sifuna.
Yes.
We have witnessed the chair herself, the Homa Bay Governor Gladys Wanga, already arriving at the venue. Of course, we do know that Gladys Wanga and
also the Energy CS, Opiyo Wandayi.
Yes, Opiyo Wandayi. And of course, you also remember that the Energy CS had to visit Opoda Farm, and he clearly stated yesterday that the ODM party will be remaining inside, or rather remaining with the arrangement that was made by Raila Odinga between him and the president. And now you can see the convoy slowly but surely moving into the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga
and the locals University. They are waving as well.
Yes, they are continuing to wave, and of course it has been an orderly fashion, especially from the people who are standing on both ends of that particular road leading up to Jost.
You know, just as you talked about the Energy CS saying that the Orange Party will continue to remain in that formation, remember that also CS Opiyo is among the 4 that came on board after that formation of the broad-based government. This is also what PS Omolo said yesterday with regards to that formation and whether it's going to disintegrate or remain as is. And he said that in fact, leaders and that region as a whole will continue to remain and stay in government as is, because that was some of the questions that were coming out. Some had really seen that formation as Raila as is, and so that now he's no longer there, what remains of it. But then some of these leaders have come to assure that it will stay as is. But Hashim, as you had mentioned, the convoy had begun to move slowly, but also it looks like it has stopped again. But again, the reason is just the same. Could be, as you mentioned, that they're trying to ensure that checks and balance are in place. The buses that had ferried people from far and wide, those individuals are checked in before they enter the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University of Science and Technology. You can see one local there waving. What is that?
A flag.
Yes, written
that has Baba's name in.
That has Baba's name
and face.
All right, that has
indicating the 5th.
Yes, and we've seen this across. I've also seen one wearing the orange T-shirt, a significance of the color of the Orange Democratic Movement Party. This is also part of what we saw yesterday at Mamboleo Stadium. We saw a number of locals donning the orange color. Could be scarves, could be T-shirts, headbands, wristbands. Just having those colors of the Orange Party, a significant party that was in that specific region. But again, that convoy has stopped a bit. Perhaps just security agencies trying to ensure that the way is clear as it's moving to Jost. On the other side, you are seeing the National Assembly Speaker, Moses Wetangula, clear indication that also various other leaders are in place, as Hashim mentioned, also the President, and obviously that means the Deputy President, as well as various other leaders who have come from different regions and different parts of the country just to come and mourn with the country after the loss of Raila Amolo Odinga.
Indeed, Doreen, and of course what we can also confirm to you is that the vehicles that were blocking the convoy are currently being cleared to allow the convoy that is currently carrying the remains of the ODM leader Raila Odinga, as well as the family members who are part of that particular convoy, will be entering just any moment from now. President William Ruto is already within the vicinity. And also, interestingly, Doreen, we witnessed even yesterday where the ODM scarf that Raila normally adores, especially that he was expected to adore, and when it comes to the ODM at 20, the celebrations that they had planned down at the coast, now we wait to see what ODM will do, if the celebrations will go on even after the demise of the ODM leader Raila Odinga. It was placed on his body yesterday, even starting at Parliament buildings the following day, following Kasarani, where the people, the great people of Nairobi, were able to see the body of the ODM leader Raila Odinga. Once the casket is opened once more, we wait to see if they'll be placing the same scarf of ODM on the body of the ODM leader Raila Odinga. The convoy is starting to move on slowly once more. Already the dignitaries are seated. All the cabinet secretaries are also seated, including other leaders. We've even seen the former Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i already arriving. We have seen Roots Party leader Wajakoya and other leaders who are currently congregating them. Given that he was a father to many and a political mentor to many politicians in that particular vicinity, we will also interestingly wait to see especially the speeches. Let me rope in now Job. In terms of the speeches that we're expecting here, not aside from what the president will be, of course, giving the official speech, but in terms of the emotions that are currently running high, the speeches, how should it go? What are your predictions?
My predictions will be that people will keep to the theme that we have seen thus far, where you extol the virtues of Baba. You then try to give a rallying call to the Wananchi and the leadership so that they continue with the spirit and what Baba was championing. But just like what happens in funerals, depending on exactly who else will be allowed to speak, in that case I'm thinking of the normal state protocol, maybe the head of parliament, the head of judiciary, the head of the executive, probably with their deputy, and probably the governor of the county. That's what typically we will see.
Yes.
But because Baba was a politician, he headed a party, maybe if they extend it to some parliamentarians, especially the party leadership, then you won't be surprised if one or two of them issue something fiery. Yeah,
because we've seen even normally President William Ruto, especially when it comes to state events, if Raila Odinga was present, he used to breach protocol and allow the ODM leader Raila Odinga to speak.
Yes, so if they do that, there'll be something fiery from that. Maybe if they actually move to even parliamentary leadership, they may also do party leadership. Yeah, they may decide, for instance, that Musalia, Kalonzo may also speak. Now, being recognized as party leaders, they are and people who are actually with the president in their coalition and who once worked with Baba. I remember from history, I was young, but I followed Jaramogi's funeral, and Governor Orengo took advantage of that funeral from emotional perspective to also his fiery nature. He spoke in a very fiery manner, which bordered on raising temperatures of the mourners, and it became a very serious matter. Almost degenerated into some form of animosity to the then President Moi. So those are things that can happen depending on who's given a chance and what state of emotion there will be. Yes.
And indeed, Millie, in terms of declaration, maybe perhaps even for the ODM mourners and supporters here, they're waiting for some certain of declaration here.
Yes, I hope that the messages that have been coming out through Mama Aida and through Senator Oburu has somehow reached the masses so that they will focus on celebrating the life of the departed hero and leader and not anticipate that there's any big announcement that the party would make at this juncture, because I'm happy that the party was very quick within this short time to have a key organ meeting and to identify an acting party leader. So there's no question as to whether the party is limping or there's a vacuum. There is someone and there's an organ that will be called to then endorse, and they stated that the top organ will then perhaps endorse or not endorse that appointment in due course. So the most I would anticipate from them as far as the leadership of the party goes would be to reaffirm to people that that organ meeting will be called sooner rather than later, or in due course, maybe give direction so that there's certainty that processes will subsist as anticipated within the party structures. I'm hoping that if they do that, then we can focus until Amolo Odinga is buried on having this being just about him. He did not ask us for too much. He asked for 72 hours within which he should then be interred. If we can allow this, look at the level and extent to which truths about his character has emerged over the last few days. We do not want to so quickly again give room to people to begin their political issues. I'm sure many of us have seen the videos that have been going around of Kenyans. You know, Kenyans, what to say, siwezi hama Kenya, you know, of the president practicing his speech today and the humor that they have put around that. So let focus be on, I think, the president's speech, and I'm hoping that as he did in Nyayo, that his speech is going to remain very unifying and respectful to the pain that the nation is going through at this time. And the fact that we are entering the late within the 7 days national mourning period will allow us to even continue to do this before we can wrap our heads around the issues of very important issues of succession and politics going forward.
And indeed, Job, that is what even the locals were asking for from Nairobi, Kisumu, Siaya, and across the country, that we should not use this particular opportunity for succession politics. Maybe should even the head of state continue making the speech without breaching protocol and inviting other leaders from speaking?
No, he may, in recognition of national leaders. There are some leaders who have reached that status. For instance, why I mentioned former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka. He may, just the president used to give Baba a chance in most of this level, because Baba's stature was too big to just be ignored. In this case, the president may be magnanimous and allow Kalonzo, just because he was Baba's running mate many times, to say something. Otherwise, he may just keep it strictly state, with the exception of the party leaders, not the party, the parliamentary leaders and the governor of the county, and maybe if they are representative of the foreign dignitaries, maybe they'll also speak, and we wrap it from there. Yes.
And indeed, we are waiting to see that particular speech that will be made by President William Ruto. Many anticipating to see if the state will do more for the Odingas, given that it has already. The state has done more for the Odinga by conferring the ODM leader Raila Odinga a state funeral mainly reserved for former heads of state and maybe even the CDF general himself. What we witnessed with the late CDF general himself, that is Ogola, who passed on, and of course we witnessed that. A similarity to what you're witnessing on your screen is that now the convoy is slowly moving, and there you have it, Doreen. That will be the final resting place for the ODM leader Raila Odinga.
Hashim, as you rightfully put it, and Weekly for Catch tells us that right now there's minimal activities, simply because all eyes currently as we speak are in Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University of Science and Technology for the state funeral service before we head here to Kango Kajaramogi. This is the final resting place of the former Premier Raila Odinga. And you can remember, Hashim, earlier on there was some bit of bickering on where exactly he should be buried following his will, whether it should be besides the mother's side or the father's side. And Oburu Oginga, the elder brother, said that he perfectly read that will, and he said beside the parents. So parents could either be the mom or the dad, and they just decided to have it beside the